What's the best way to train as a firefighter? I hear it over and over from the people that I've worked with. I've been training like a bodybuilder for years and doing the bro split, and it's just not working. I'm sore, I've lost athleticism, and more importantly, it's boring. In today's video, I'm gonna tell you exactly why that is, and after 15 years in the gym and training thousands of first responders, what the best approach is when your role is about more than just looking good in the mirror. Now, don't get me wrong, something is always better than nothing, and traditional bodybuilding and hypertrophy training is beneficial, but let's talk about what it does and more importantly, what it neglects. Bodybuilding was designed with one goal: make a specific muscle bigger. That is it. And to do that effectively, it does something very deliberately. It isolates. Leg extensions, leg curls, chest flies, cable lateral raises. Every single one of these movements is engineered to remove every other muscle from the equation, so the target muscle has nowhere to hide and no choice but to do all the work. That is great for growing the muscle, but here is where it starts to fall apart for people like me and you. When you train in isolation, you get strong in isolation. You develop the prime movers, the big muscles doing the visible work, but you chronically underload the surrounding structures, the stabilizers, the rotator cuff muscles that protect your shoulder when pulling ceilings and working overhead, the small muscles around your knee that decide whether that joint is gonna hold up while you're climbing stairs with 100 pounds of gear at a high-rise call, the deep core that has to brace and contract when rotating to force a door. Bodybuilding does not train those. It deliberately eliminates them from the equation. And here's the part that nobody talks about. When you repeat the same isolated movement patterns over and over for months and years, your nervous system gets very efficient at those specific patterns and those specific patterns only. You groove a movement, you get strong in that groove, but life does not happen in grooves. The fireground does not happen in grooves. You are twisting, rotating, bracing, pulling from an awkward position, absorbing load from angles a machine will never prepare you for. And that gap between how you train and how you actually move becomes the weak link where injuries occur and you lack the usable strength required to do this job. I have seen this up close more times than I can count, and quite frankly, I used to be one of these people. The guys and girls who are genuinely strong in the gym, but the second you put them in a situation that requires timing, rhythm, dynamic, fluid, full body movement under load, everything falls apart completely. Strong in the gym, but limited everywhere else. And for us, everywhere else is the job. That is the gap. And for most first responders who have been training for years and still feel like something is missing, that gap is exactly why. There's something else happening that almost nobody addresses. When you overdevelop a prime mover without developing the surrounding structures at the same rate, you create imbalance. The strong muscle dominates, it shortens, it pulls on everything attached to it, and what lives between all of those muscles and what wraps around every single one of them, connects the entire system together, is something called fascia. And this is where it gets interesting. Most people have never even heard about fascia, even people that have been training for years. And that is the problem, because fascia might be one of the most important structures in your body when it comes to how you move and how you feel. Fascia is a web of connective tissue that surrounds and innervates every muscle, every organ, every nerve, and every bone in your body. It is not separate from your muscles, it is woven through them. Think of it less like a bag that holds your muscle and more like a full suit that connects everything to everything else. Here's what makes it relevant. Fascia has more nerve endings than muscle tissue. It is incredibly sensitive. It responds to load, to movement, to tension, and to restriction. And when one part of that web gets tight and restricted, it does not stay local. It pulls on adjacent structures, it creates tension downstream, it changes how other parts of your body move and feel, sometimes in places that seem completely unrelated to the original problem. Here is a practical example. You spend years hammering your chest, bench press, cable flies, dumbbell press, all of it. You grow your pecs, but they also shorten and tighten. That tightness does not stay in your chest, it pulls your shoulders forward through the fascial web. That changes the position of your shoulder joint. Now your rotator cuff is working at a mechanical disadvantage every time you go overhead. Your thoracic spine also rounds to accommodate that tightness. Your neck follows. Now you have upper back stiffness and neck tension that you are treating with a lacrosse ball. That is not fixing anything because the source of the problem is not where you feel the pain. And here's the thing about stretching and smashing with a lacrosse ball. It feels good temporarily. But if the movement pattern that created that tightness is still happening, the tightness just keeps coming back over and over again because your body is not malfunctioning, it is protecting itself. This is one of the most misunderstood things about muscle tightness. It is not a flaw, it is a feature. It is a feature when your body detects that a joint is moving into a range of motion that it does not have the strength or control to manage safely. It tightens the surrounding musculature as a protective mechanism. It is your nervous system essentially saying, we're not going there because we do not have the capacity to handle what you're trying to do. So when you stretch that muscle that is tight, because of lack of range of motion, you are fighting that protective mechanism without addressing the underlying cause. You are temporarily overriding the alarm without fixing what triggered it. This is why people stretch the same area every single day for years and never actually get more flexible or feel better. The restriction comes back because the nervous system never got the signal that it is safe to let go. The signal it needs is strength through a range of motion, mobility, control through the full arc of movement. When your body learns that it can handle load at an end range, the protective tightness releases, not because you forced it, but because it no longer needs to be there. This is why people who train full body functional movements consistently report that they just move better, that they feel less tension. I hear it all the time from my clients. Mitch, my hips opened up. I wake up in the morning and I feel great. I don't feel like the Tin Man. Not because they stretched more, but because they built capacity in ranges that their body previously had no reason to trust. So what does functional training actually do that bodybuilding neglects? How is this style of training going to undo years of pain and discomfort and have you feeling like you're reverse aging? Let's get into it. But first, let's define it. Functional fitness is training that prepares your body for the demands of real life movement. Multi-joint, multi-directional loaded patterns that require coordination, stability, and strength working together at the same time. Sound familiar? It should, because that is the description of our job. It trains movements, not muscles. The human body was not designed to work one muscle at a time. It was designed to produce coordinated movement and force across multiple joints simultaneously. A swing, a pull, a push from the ground, rotation. These are patterns that carry over to everything you do on the job and everything you do at home. It includes the stabilizers by default. When you do a kettlebell clean, your rotator cuff is working, your deep core is bracing, and your hip stabilizers are firing. None of them are the prime movers in the exercise, but all of them are being trained. The surrounding structures get stronger alongside the prime movers because the movements demand them. It maintains and develops range of motion rather than restricting it, because the movements require you to move through a full range of motion under load. Your nervous system learns to trust those ranges. Tightness that was protective gradually releases because the body now has the capacity it was protecting against the absence of. It trains the fascial system as an integrated web rather than isolating individual muscles. Full body compound movements create tension and load through the entire fascial chain. The connection between your foot and your hand through a deadlift, the spiral line that links the opposite hip to your shoulder through a rotational movement. These chains get stronger and more coordinated as a unit, which is exactly what your body needs to do when you're at a working fire or just playing with your kids day to day in the backyard. It trains rotation. This is one of the most overlooked gaps in traditional training. Almost every movement on the job involves rotation under load. Forcing a door, pulling a ceiling, dragging a victim, crawling low, performing a search in a confined space. Adding deliberate rotational work to your training is not optional as a first responder, it's essential. It builds power, not just strength. Strength is how much you can move. Power is how fast can you move it. On the job, you rarely have time to grind through a slow, controlled movement in a predictable setting. You need to be explosive when it's unpredicted. You need rate of force development. That quality gets trained deliberately or it gets lost. And when you don't train it, that's why you don't feel like an athlete anymore, because you've lost that ability. Bodybuilding builds a body that looks capable. Functional training builds a body that is capable. And for first responders, for someone whose fitness is not just about the mirror, but about performance, longevity, and showing up for people who are depending on them, that distinction is everything. Your goal is not to be the biggest person in the room. The goal is to be the most capable person on the fireground and the most present person at home for as long as possible. We have trained thousands of first responders using a functional approach to training to get fit, move better, have less pain, and perform at a high level at work, and to be able to play with their kids and their kids' kids for years. If you're interested in learning more and working with me and my amazing team, check out the description, and until next time, train hard, stay safe, own your oath.
Peace.